Hello everyone. Today we will see Bathsheba as a victim of Sergeant Troy male gaze. Yesterday we have discussed about Gabriel Oak and Bathsheba. That was part 1. Today we will talk about part 2. That's Bathsheba as a victim for Sergeant Troy's male gaze. Let's begin. Generally speaking, Victorian men were ideally required to be adventurous, skilled, and have at least some kind of military training. In addition, they should be physically fit and strong, and well able to provide a comfortable life for their wives, so that they don't have to work. The question arises that find why in Victorian time people need or particularly women need masculine men. So the reason is that for the doing a hard work, and who will do very hard work. But obviously that the military men are doing a very hard work than the normal men. So who get the benefits if the military man's type of the male or husband, they will get their wives. So what they get, so they don't have to work anywhere and they enjoy their lives. That's why at that Victorian time women are looking for that kind of personality which is relate with army and well able to be provide a comfortable life for their wives so that don't have to work. The first successful suitor of a Bathsheba, young soldier called Frank Troy, fitted this ideal of masculine to a large extent. Beside being an active member of the army, he described as a fit, strong, and well-trained man. In this novel, we find that there is a three shooter, but the Sergeant Troy is able to very fastly connect with Bathsheba. Why? Now you get the reason that the military man, the masculine power is more than the average man, so that Sergeant Troy able to very quickly get Bathsheba's closeness and they get very fastly in relationship. But according to that reading, we come to know that why Bathsheba become very close to him very quickly. So reason is masculine, or that the army training or that the military attitude make him more attractive. So and at the end, what Bathsheba will do with this masculinity, so that what is not afraid the hard work. The complete line is like that. He described as a fit, strong, and well-trained man who is not afraid of the hard work. Manually work at Bathsheba's farm. At the end, Bathsheba wants some kind of a man who can control his farm, manage his farm, and with very powerful. That masculine personality we need, that's why. So Bathsheba want to make someone that caretaker, very strong man that that person can control the all the farm very easily. So that's why Bathsheba get very quickly connected with Sergeant Troy. Let's see second para. There is only one aspect Sergeant Troy lack. Every person has a good and bad side. Like we know that every coin has a two sides. So first side was about Sergeant Troy's plus point, or the good thing about that that man is masculine. It came from an army, so that Bathsheba get very quickly attract, and the reason is that only this man can protect her farm, make a very good caretaker. But there is a one aspect Sergeant Troy lack, and what was the lacking point we will see in the ability to provide for his future wife. Even though he was born into a wealthy family, his tendency to spend money rather easily and not always wisely means that man has a habit to spend money like water. Unfortunately, Bathsheba don't like that. Let's see how. Prevent him from an accumulatively any sizeable amount of wealth. However, Bathsheba is not a woman to be put off by this minor imperfection. just why it's become a minor imperfection, just because both the person Bathsheba and Sergeant Troy came from a healthy background, that they have far much money, but still one of the characteristic of Bathsheba is that as much as she cherish her independence, and how she get independence by money, or that inheritance which she taken by from that given by from her uncle, so that at the end the comes all the thing about money, power, position. So if her husband will wasting money, then at the end she become also poor. So she does not mind sharing, or may not like that, this point about her husbands. She does not mind sharing her whole inheritance with her legal spouse. It is through Bathsheba's behavior toward Troy when we learn about the selfless and largely naïve aspect of her character. One important factor that distinguishes Sergeant Troy from the other. One of We have seen good and bad side. Both the side we have discussed about the masculinity, the plus point, negative point about Sergeant Troy is that wasting on money. But one of the unique characteristic, you can see that every person has three things. First one is a good thing, second about bad, and third one is a unique, that the only way that person has that, which other person has lacking. Maybe they have not that kind of uniqueness, but that person only have that uniqueness. So what was that uniqueness? Let's see. One of the important factor that distinguishes Sergeant Troy from the other two shooter, this is Troy's overrated sexual experience. He is without any doubt the most experienced and the superior of three men fighting for Bathsheba's heart. Yes, as you can know that Gabriel Oak and the old age man Boldwood have no idea about any kind of love relationship, but Sergeant Troy has. That's why the fighting of these three men he able to win very quickly. And we know that was Fanny, that the Sergeant Troy's first love, and now he was doing gimmick with Bathsheba. So it's the second time, so that man was a little bit experienced that how to deal with women, but Gabriel Oak or that Boldwood has no idea. So that is the uniqueness, the unique thing that he has, that the experience make him plus or more aggressively upside then that other two character are losing that. So that more importantly, he is much more experienced than any, and thus superior to Bathsheba, who proudly admit not having kissed a man before. And so here it's on the second time for an Sergeant Troy, but for Bathsheba it's on the first time that all thing was going. And it is the unavoidably the sexual power Troy express upon her that seems to be the strong element in the novel, which almost lead to the downfall of both protagonists. At the end, how the relationship was collapsed. Why? Just because that the showing in a power and probability, that showing in masculinity become a negative point at the end of the story, which we see in the Christmas Eve party of Boldwood, that he was holding in a hand Bathsheba very tightly. So it's get a little bit painful for Bathsheba, and at the time Sergeant Troy was shooted by Boldwood. So that in first meeting that masculine became attractive, but when we go to the end of the novel, we will see that that masculinity become a problem, or become a reason of the death. The last para. Upon their first encounter, the power of Sergeant Troy gaze over Bathsheba become apparent from the fact she barely dares to look him straight in the eye. How that here we see the narration, how that was the situation that the first time they are meeting, and how Sergeant Roy make a dominant on Bathsheba, and Bathsheba able to accept that dominant. So that the line is that he looked hard into her eyes when she raised them for a moment. Bathsheba looked down again, for his gaze was too strong to be received point blank with her own. See, that was the moment that they both had come together, and how Bathsheba was a little bit uncomfortable. She looks down, but Sergeant Roy was very hardly looking on her eye very straightly. However, However, the However, the real power of his gaze is most evident in the heavily sexual loaded scene in the middle of the wood, that the meeting in the forest we have seen, in the whole aim in the firearms, in the famous sword exercise scene. The second time we see that in the sword exercise, that Bathsheba was looking at him, and Troy demonstrates his outstanding military skill and thus his masculine to Bathsheba, dazzling her by his gleaming sword. And what he says, producing the sword which as he resists into the sunlight gleams a shot of greeting like a living thing. As a Wittenberg comment in her essay. One of the essayists and the feminist reader, Wittenberg, comment in her essay, in the process, what she noted. In the process, he reduced Bathsheba to as a mass of sexual acquiring femininity and capture as a fitting trophy, a lock of hair. That was in one of the Alexander's poem also, the rape of Locke. At the same way, she was saying, in the process, he reduced Bathsheba to a mass of sexual acquiring femininity and capture a fitting trophy, a lock of hair. Like a trophy, Sergeant Troy was holding Bathsheba. And the lock of hair is, by cutting off a lock of her hair, Troy aptly confirmed his superiority and masculine dominance, which foreshadow that Bathsheba is to come to his possession completely. Means when that Sergeant Troy aptly confirmed his superiority by how a lock of her hair. By this way, that Sergeant Troy proved his male gaze, and we can see in that how he proved his superiority. I hope so, friend, you get an idea that how Sergeant Troy and Bathsheba are get attract toward, and the masculine become a plus point in a beginning time, but when comes down in the relationship, we come to another that masculinity become a problem. So the part 2 is talk about Bathsheba as a victim of